ready.
All right. I'm Lieutenant Corey Smith with the Boise Police Department. I work as the executive officer for the patrol division, and I'm here because we've had a lot of questions, a lot of concerns from the community over the couple of recent events that occurred along the Greenbelt. And so we just want to reassure the community that we do hear those questions, we hear those concerns. We are continuing with the directed patrols of the extra officers working along the Greenbelt. We have extra officers from the patrol division to help the bike officers who primarily work along the Greenbelt and the associated parks. The bike officers that work 7 days a week along the Greenbelt and in the parks are also supplemented currently by school resource officers for the summer. So there are additional officers in that role. And then the patrol officers, as calls allow, will be checking out directed patrol. So we want the community to know that you will see an increase of police officers on the Greenbelt. They're there because we want to make sure that the Greenbelt is a safe place and that people utilizing the Greenbelt and the associated parks feel safe as well. That's very important to us. And so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that that occurs.
Can you quantify the amount of increased patrols that you guys will be doing?
The directed patrols by the patrol division are going to vary based on the shifts and the call loads. So we have to work with the manpower that we have throughout the city and the amount of calls that are coming in. But each of these supervisors has been directed that this is a priority, that any chance that they have to get officers down here for extra time for these directed patrols, it should be utilized for that. And then I'll also add that it's not just the officers along the Greenbelt or in the parks. We generally have officers working throughout the downtown area, throughout all the areas that surround the Greenbelt. And as evidence of that, the incident that occurred most recently, our patrol officers were the ones who responded, and they were there making contact with the parties and taking the subject into custody, I believe, in under 10 minutes. And so we do have officers always close and ready to respond to those types of incidents.
Could you describe the patrols? Bicycle, foot?
Yes. So the officers have been directed to either check out on foot, do foot patrols. If they're able to utilize bikes, if they're bike certified, we've encouraged them to use bikes to conduct bike patrols similar to the bike patrol officers that are always along the Greenbelt. So you'll see a variety of ways that officers are doing those directed patrols and in a variety of areas. We don't want to just focus on one area. We want to make sure that everyone who's utilizing these spaces feels safe.
How will late night patrols look like? Will you guys have, you're talking about how you'll spare people as they are available as a priority. Is there more police officers available at night, or is this going to be like the same amount of police officers? And so what is that coverage going to look like as we get later into the day, into the evening?
I'm leaving the specifics up to the supervisors that are working because I can't dictate what calls come in and what the requirements are throughout the rest of the city with the amount of officers they have. But again, we've emphasized that this is a priority, that we want the Greenbelt to be a safe place and that we want people utilizing the Greenbelt to feel safe. And so any available time that the officers have, we're encouraging them to come down and check out on these directed patrols. We're leaving it up to the supervisors to dictate exactly where and when and how many officers are doing that.
I'm wondering kind of what typical patrols look like before these incidents had occurred, and whether you could quantify maybe if you see patrol doubling, or if you have any kind of specifics you could add on how much more patrol there really will be in the next few weeks.
Sure. So we have our bike officers who patrol the Greenbelt and all the associated parks. They work 7 days a week. They work day shift, swing shift, long after the sun has gone down, and then night shift would be mostly patrol officers who are responding to calls for service, checking out extra patrols in the area. So as far as the amount that you'll see 24 hours a day, you'll see an increase in officers because the night shift officers, when they're not handling calls for service or otherwise tied up, will be down here checking out on directed patrols throughout all hours of the night.
Howdy with the Idaho Press here. As far as the SRO presence, how many more officers does that bring on?
I believe it's 4 or 5. I believe there's 5 SROs that are currently assigned. I can't give you the exact dates and times they're working, but I know that they're supplementing the bike officers who work this role 24/7.
Will you guys place a curfew now on the Greenbelt if these incidents happen?
The same park rules and regulations are in place. You are able to travel through the parks and through the Greenbelt, and so there's not going to be anything additional with that. our focus is on making sure that our presence is known, that we have enough officers in the area, both that people see us, feel comfortable utilizing the area, and that they're able to take enforcement action against any violations that they come across. So there will be an increased presence. We're not imposing anything additional.
Are there any conversations about increasing security, whether that being cameras or permanent patrol on the Greenbelt right now?
I know that there's a lot of conversations going on. I can't speak to the specifics. I know that there's a lot of conversations both with our department and within the various departments within the city about how to address that, yes.
Is this increased patrol temporary or just for the summer or permanent?
Right now, there's not a time limit or an expiration date. I would say it's temporary because we're directing patrol officers to come down and utilize their enforcement time to conduct these directed patrols. So I don't have a time limit or expiration date. Our main focus is addressing the community's concerns and the questions that we've had. We recognize that there are a lot of people very concerned about the recent incidents, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they feel comfortable using the Greenbelt, using the associated parks, and that there is more safety and that they see that in the officers that are present.
How can the community members stay safe around the Greenbelt now that it's happened? And of course, we're going to see increasing law enforcement, but how can people stay safe?
Yeah, thank you for that. I know that we've released safety tips in our previous messaging. I think a lot of the same safety tips that would apply anytime someone finds themselves in an isolated area, maybe in a dark area, would apply. Staying aware of surroundings, making sure that you have a cell phone that's charged. If you can let people know where you are or where you're going to be, that would help. Even if you can have a trusted person that you can share your location with, that would help. And I'd like to point out that the members of the community here in Boise do a great job of taking care of each other. That's one of the things that makes this city so special. The most recent incident, 2 members of the community heard the incident, heard calls for help, and quickly responded. They called 911, they intervened, and that is part of the reason why we were able to respond so quickly and take a suspect into custody. So I would encourage that. If you see something suspicious, if you see something that is not right, please call. If it's not an emergency, we have non-emergency dispatch line. If it's an active crime or a dangerous situation, call 911, and I promise we will have officers in the area and they will respond quickly.
Are there any areas of the Greenbelt or certain times of day that you think cause higher concern or potentially are areas of concern that people should avoid?
I wouldn't say that. I would emphasize that although we've had 2 incidents within about a week of each other, it's not common for our city. And I think if you go back and look at the statistics, Boise is a very safe place to live, very safe place to recreate. And part of the reason why it's so safe is both the emphasis we put on providing those safe spaces and the emphasis the community makes on working with us and helping each other and helping to keep it a city that we love. So I don't think there's any one stretch of the Greenbelt that's a concern. I just think, going back to the safety tips, if you find yourself in an area that's somewhat isolated, poor lighting, it's always safer to be with another person or to take some of those simple safety measures that we released previously. But no, I think in general this is a very safe place. Yes.
Just a community member, but what is the enforcement plan for the motorized vehicles? And you may have covered this earlier, but I mean, are people getting tickets? What is illegal and how to enforce it?
I know that's being addressed, so we're going to have to release information on that in the future. Our community outreach division is specifically working on that situation, so I don't want to address any specifics right now.
And I just want to thank you for all your work.
Thank you.